Have you ever stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m., completely exhausted, yet your brain refuses to slow down? Your body is tired, your eyes are heavy, but your mind, it's wide awake, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, analyzing things that already happened or maybe haven't even happened yet. You tell yourself to sleep. You close your eyes and try to relax. But the more you try, the more awake you feel. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, over 70 million adults in the US experience some form of sleep disruption. And for many of them, it's not about coffee or screens or the wrong pillow. It's stress. Stress is the hidden force that keeps the body wired and alert, even when all you want is to rest. And here's the irony. The more stressed you are, the harder it is to sleep. But the less sleep you get, the more stressed your body becomes. It's a vicious loop. And it's one so many of us don't even realize we're stuck in. This episode is here to help you break that cycle. We're not just talking about sleep hygiene or bedtime routines. We're going deeper into the actual neuroscience of stress and sleep, how your brain and body respond when they don't feel safe, and how you can begin to reset your system gently, without shame and without pressure. Because real rest doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding. So if you've ever laid awake wondering, what's wrong with me? This is for you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just human. And your body has been trying to protect you, even in the middle of the night. Let's walk through it together. Why stress keeps you from sleeping? Have you ever noticed how on the nights when you're worried about something, maybe a small thing like a message you forgot to respond to, or a meeting you're not quite ready for, you somehow can't fall asleep? Sometimes it's just a look someone gave you at dinner, or the way your boss paused before replying, or even a feeling you can't name. And suddenly, the quiet of night becomes the loudest part of your day. You turn off the lights, crawl into bed, but your mind stays wide awake. It runs loops around the same thoughts over and over, refusing to settle down. There's a reason for that. And to understand it, we need to go back, not to last week or last year, but back thousands of years to a time when humans didn't have phones, deadlines, or 24/7 news cycles. Imagine you're a human living in the wild. When the sun goes down, that's your cue to rest. But the night isn't peaceful. It's dangerous. Predators roam, temperatures drop, and you need to be alert to survive. So, your brain evolves a system to keep you alive. When there's even a hint of danger, a rustle in the bushes, a strange sound, a shifting shadow, your brain flips a switch. Your heart rate rises, your breathing quickens, and you become hyper alert. Sleep is no longer a priority. Survival is. That system still lives inside you today. It's called the fight or flight response, and it's controlled by a part of your brain called the amygdala. The moment the amygdala senses something threatening, whether real or imagined, it triggers your hypothalamus, which then tells your adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones were designed to save your life, and they still do. The problem is, your body doesn't know the difference between a lion in the woods and a passive-aggressive email. To your nervous system, stress is stress. Whether it's a bill you forgot to pay or a conversation you've been avoiding, it activates the same alarm system. And when that system is on, sleep becomes biologically difficult. Even if you tell yourself, relax, I need to sleep, I have to wake up early, your body isn't listening. It's stuck in red alert. Cortisol plays a big role here. In a healthy rhythm, cortisol peaks in the morning, to help you wake up, then gradually tapers off throughout the day so you can unwind at night. But when you're under constant stress, especially in the evening, your cortisol levels don't drop like they should. They stay elevated. And high cortisol suppresses melatonin, the hormone that helps you feel sleepy. So even when you're tired, you don't feel ready to sleep. You lie in the dark, eyes open, wondering if something is wrong with you. Let me say this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not broken. You haven't lost the ability to sleep. Your body is simply not convinced that it's safe enough to do so. That's the core of the problem. Your survival system is doing its job, just at the wrong time. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. The harder you try to force sleep, the more stressed you get. You get angry at yourself for being awake. Your thoughts speed up, your heart rate climbs, and your brain interprets all of that as more danger. It's like trying to fall asleep in a burning room. The very act of trying makes things worse. This is the beginning of the cycle. One night of bad sleep turns into a bad day. You feel foggy, irritable, and anxious. You underperform. You beat yourself up. You dread the next night. And sure enough, your anxiety about not sleeping keeps you from sleeping again. Before you know it, you're stuck in a loop. Stress causes poor sleep, and poor sleep increases stress. Round and round you go. The first step to breaking the loop isn't medication. It's not even relaxation, not really. It's understanding. Understanding that your body isn't working against you, it's trying to protect you. It's just confused. Somewhere along the way, it began to associate nighttime with threat, with tension, with unresolved thoughts and unfinished business. And now it's standing guard, keeping you awake, waiting for a danger that doesn't exist. That's why we begin here. Not with quick fixes or hacks, but with insight. Because when you really grasp how your brain and body are wired, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop thinking you're weak or dramatic or lazy. And instead, you can begin to speak to your system in a language it understands. You can start to signal, hey, it's safe now. You don't have to stay on watch. And over time, as we'll explore in this series, you can teach your body to believe that. Not just during the day, but at night when it matters most. The sleep stress loop, how we get stuck without realizing it. Let's say you had a stressful day. Maybe nothing dramatic happened. No big arguments, no accidents. But your brain never really got a chance to breathe. You were juggling work, answering messages between errands, and feeling quietly overwhelmed by things you didn't even name. You finally get home, and your body is tired, but your mind, it's still racing. You tell yourself, just sleep it off. But then the lights go out and your thoughts turn up louder. That's how it starts. At first, it might just be one bad night. You toss and turn, maybe drift off around 3 a.m. The next morning you feel off, a little slower, a little more irritable. You brush it off. Just tired, you say. But then it happens again, and again. And each night, your mind remembers the last time you tried to sleep and couldn't. That memory alone becomes a new stressor. You begin to associate your bed not with rest, but with frustration. Your brain starts to expect the struggle before it even begins. This is the loop. Not a single moment, but a pattern that builds in layers. A domino effect of small, subtle shifts that compound over time. Here's what's happening under the surface. The more often you lie awake in bed while stressed, the stronger your brain connects that physical space with alertness. This is called conditioned arousal. It's a term from behavioral sleep science, and it means your brain has started to misinterpret your bed as a place to think, worry, or brace for disappointment. Instead of winding down when you hit the pillow, your system gears up. Meanwhile, sleep deprivation itself makes you more emotionally reactive. Studies show that even one night of poor sleep can reduce activity in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logical thinking and emotional regulation, and increase activity in your amygdala. That means the less you sleep, the harder it is to handle stress. And the harder stress hits you, the more likely you are to lose sleep again. It's a cycle. But unlike a loop on a racetrack, it doesn't feel smooth or predictable. It feels jagged. One night you sleep okay, the next you don't. You start to dread bedtime. You might try harder, shut off your phone, drink tea, do deep breathing, but the very effort of trying becomes pressure. And pressure is just another word for stress. The loop doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. You might still show up for work, smile in conversations, check off your to-do list, but inside, you're running on empty. You're managing your day in survival mode. You drink more coffee. You scroll later at night because your brain craves dopamine. You promise yourself you'll go to bed earlier tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and the loop begins again. What's important to understand here is that this loop is not a sign of weakness. It's not your fault. It's simply the way the nervous system learns, through repetition. And what it learns, it can unlearn. But here's the catch. Most people try to break the sleep stress loop by addressing just one side of it. They either try to fix their sleep through supplements, strict routines, blackout curtains, or they try to manage their stress with quick distractions like scrolling or binge-watching shows. And while those things might offer short-term relief, they rarely touch the deeper patterns driving the loop. To really interrupt it, you have to understand that sleep and stress are not two separate problems. They're one conversation happening inside your body. Sleep is the body's signal that it feels safe enough to let go. Stress is the signal that it still feels the need to stay alert. And when those two signals conflict, stress usually wins. So the question becomes, how do we help the body feel safe again? We don't bully it into silence. We don't shame it for being tired. We listen. We slow down. We become curious, and we start sending signals, not with words but with actions, that tell the body, it's okay to rest now. That begins with small things, gentle shifts, which we'll explore more deeply in the next part. But for now, I want to leave you with this. If you're caught in the loop right now, if you've had more bad nights than good ones lately, know this. Your body is not your enemy. It's not malfunctioning. It's responding exactly as it was designed to do. What it needs now is not punishment, but patience. And that's what this journey is about. Rebuilding trust between you and your body. One night, one breath, one moment at a time. Signs you're losing sleep because of stress, not something else. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't losing sleep. It's not knowing why. You lie there, night after night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day in your head. You wonder if maybe you had too much caffeine, or not enough exercise, or maybe it was the screen time, or the room temperature, or that second glass of wine. You search for reasons, any reason, why you can't fall asleep. And in doing so, you might miss the most important clue: stress. The truth is, stress doesn't always show up with flashing lights. It can be subtle, it can wear disguises, it can walk into your life in silence and build a home inside your nervous system without ever announcing itself. And when that happens, it becomes easy to blame other things for your restless nights, when in reality, stress may be the quiet thread running underneath them all. So how can you tell if stress is the real reason you're not sleeping? It usually starts with your thoughts, not just the content, but the timing. If your mind becomes most active the moment your head hits the pillow, if that's when the to-do lists, unfinished conversations, and what-ifs come rushing in, there's a good chance your body has been carrying tension all day without processing it. Night becomes the first moment your mind feels free to think, and so it does. Overthink, really. Another clue is a feeling of wired exhaustion. You're tired, bone-deep tired, but still restless. You yawn, you feel heavy, your eyes burn, but your body feels too alert to let go. That sensation of being both tired and unable to sleep is a hallmark of stress-related insomnia. It means your sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for fight or flight, is still running, even if everything around you is calm. You might also notice physical symptoms: a racing heart when you lie down, shallow breathing, tension in your shoulders, jaw, or stomach. These aren't just quirks. They're signs your body doesn't feel safe yet. Sleep, remember, is a full body surrender. And you can't surrender when your body still thinks it needs to be on guard. Maybe you fall asleep just fine, but wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning with your heart pounding and thoughts already spinning. That middle of the night anxiety is often stress in disguise. Your cortisol levels spike too early, pulling you out of rest before your sleep cycle is complete. And once you're awake, it's hard to drift back. The world feels too quiet, your mind too loud. Another sign? The things you tell yourself during those sleepless hours. If your inner voice gets harsher at night, if you catch yourself spiraling into self-criticism, guilt, or fear, it's not just sleeplessness. It's the emotional residue of stress, rising to the surface when distractions fall away. Stress loves silence. It fills it with noise. It can also affect your dreams. Vivid, restless, emotionally intense dreams. Dreams where you're chased, trapped, falling, or trying to find something and failing. These aren't random. They're reflections of a nervous system trying to process unresolved tension. Even in sleep, your body is still carrying weight. Sometimes it's not even what happens at night, but how you feel during the day. If you wake up groggy, no matter how many hours you slept, if you feel emotionally fragile, easily triggered, disconnected, or like everything takes more effort than it should, that too can point to stress-fueled sleep disruption. Your body may be sleeping, but not resting. And here's the final sign. Your habits start to shift. You reach for more caffeine. You scroll longer. You cancel plans because you're too drained. You start avoiding your own thoughts. You might even stop talking about how tired you are because it feels like no one would understand anyway. That isolation, that quiet resignation, that's stress too. Recognizing these signs doesn't fix everything overnight, but it does something powerful. It gives your experience a name. And once you name something, you can meet it differently. You stop fighting shadows and start facing something real. Stress may not be the only reason you're losing sleep, but if it's part of the puzzle, then ignoring it only keeps the loop alive. What you need now isn't more control or more effort. You've tried that. You've powered through. What you need is awareness, compassion, and a plan, not to fight your body, but to work with it. In the next part, we'll follow the path of a single night of stress-induced insomnia. From the moment you get into bed to the moment the sun rises, will exactly what's happening inside your brain and body. so you can stop wondering and start understanding. Because the more you understand your nights, the better you can reclaim them. A night in the mind of stress. What really happens when you can't sleep? It usually starts quietly. You brush your teeth, check your phone one last time, turn off the lights, and pull the blanket over your shoulders. For a moment, everything feels still. You close your eyes and hope tonight will be better. Maybe tonight you'll finally sleep. But then, somewhere between the second and third minute, your brain starts talking. Not loudly, not all at once, just a gentle hum, like background static. A replay of a conversation, a stray worry about tomorrow, something unfinished from earlier. You tell yourself to ignore it, to let go, to just relax. But now you're aware of your thoughts, and the silence around you only makes them louder. Your body shifts slightly. You open your eyes just to check the room. It's still dark, you're still tired. But your mind, it's awake now, fully. What's happening is this. Your nervous system is trying to transition from wakefulness to sleep. It's like lowering a dimmer switch. But stress disrupts that transition. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And it does so by keeping your sympathetic nervous system activated, just enough to keep the brakes on rest. Inside your brain, your amygdala is on high alert, not because something is wrong necessarily, but because it's learned to be cautious in quiet moments, especially at night, especially when you're alone with your thoughts. It's scanning, searching for anything that might feel unresolved or unsafe. And the more often it finds something, anything, the more it strengthens the connection between nighttime and threat. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps regulate thoughts and emotions, starts to slow down. That's normal as you move toward sleep. But here's the catch. If your emotional brain is still active and your rational brain is dialing down, what you're left with is emotion without balance. That's why worries feel bigger at night. That's why something small can feel overwhelming. Because the part of your brain that says, it's okay, we've got this, is fading, while the part that says, what if, is getting louder. Your body follows suit. Your heart rate doesn't slow the way it should. Your breathing stays shallow. Muscles stay slightly tense. Your mind begins rehearsing scenarios, not necessarily bad ones, just endless ones. What you'll say in the meeting tomorrow, whether you should text that person back, if you're behind in life, whether you're doing enough, whether you are enough. You check the time, it's only been 20 minutes, but it feels like longer. Now you're no longer just trying to sleep, you're trying not to panic. Because you've been here before. You remember what happened the last time you stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m. You remember the fog the next morning, the frustration, the way you told yourself, tonight I have to sleep. And now that pressure has crept back in. The more you try to force sleep, the further away it drifts. It's around this point that a new kind of tension sets in. You feel it in your stomach, like a knot that won't untangle. You shift positions. You try the left side, the right, your back, fetal position. Nothing helps. Your blanket feels too heavy, then not warm enough. The room is too quiet, too loud. Everything is too much. Your brain reaches for control. It wants to fix this. So it starts scanning for solutions. Maybe a podcast, a meditation app, maybe a glass of water, maybe melatonin. Maybe you should just get up. But you're afraid that getting up will wake you even more. And staying in bed makes you feel trapped. So you stay and think and wait. Sometimes you do fall asleep eventually, not peacefully, more like collapsing from exhaustion. Other nights you wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, mouth dry, some half-remembered dream fading in the dark. You try to go back, but your brain's already moving, already calculating how much time you have left. If I fall asleep right now, I'll get 4 hours, 3.5, maybe 2. At that point, sleep becomes math. And math at 4 a.m. is just stress in disguise. Your alarm eventually goes off, but it doesn't startle you because you were already half awake, already bracing for the day. You sit up, feeling like you ran a marathon in your sleep. Not rested, not renewed, just drained. And here's what makes it worse. No one sees this. On the outside, you might look fine. You show up, you function. But inside, you're running on fumes. You don't even complain anymore because this has become normal. The nights, the exhaustion, the quiet battles. But what's happening during those nights is not random. It's not just bad luck or overthinking. It's a trained response. A pattern your brain and body have learned through repetition. Your nervous system has been practicing staying awake under tension. And now, it's gotten good at it. The good news is, it can learn something new. The human body is beautifully adaptable. The brain is plastic, it rewires, which means you don't have to live inside this kind of night forever. But you do need to start paying attention. Not just to your bedtime habits, but to the stress you carry into the bedroom. Not just to your thoughts, but to the feelings underneath them. The things that stay in your body when the lights go out. Because the path to deep, healing sleep doesn't begin with perfect routines or sleep hacks. It begins with safety, internal safety. The kind that says, I don't need to be on guard anymore. I can let go now. In the next part, we'll talk about the hidden habits and patterns that silently sabotage your sleep, ways you might be unintentionally keeping your body in a state of low-grade stress, even when you think you're relaxing. Because sometimes, the things we do to cope are the very things that keep us stuck. And the moment you see them for what they are, everything can begin to shift. The hidden habits that secretly keep you stressed and sleepless. Most of us think of stress as something loud, a fight, a deadline, a financial shock. But the truth is, some of the most powerful stressors don't scream, they whisper. They live inside the tiny habits we repeat every day without even noticing, the ones we think are harmless, even helpful. And yet, night after night, they quietly signal to our nervous system that it's not safe to rest. Let's start with the one that shows up in almost every modern bedroom. The screen. You're winding down, maybe scrolling through social media, watching a video, checking emails one last time. It feels innocent, even comforting. A distraction, a moment of mental escape. But while your eyes are locked on that glowing rectangle, your brain is absorbing more than images. It's absorbing stimulation, brightness, movement, sound, information, and underneath it all, a subtle current of comparison, urgency, and pressure. Every scroll, every notification, every new piece of content is a micro hit of dopamine, the brain's pay attention chemical. But dopamine doesn't help you relax. It helps you chase. It keeps you alert, engaged, wired. So while you think you're winding down, your brain is winding up. Even if you put your phone down 30 minutes before bed, your system may still be processing everything it just saw. A subtle spike in heart rate, a lingering thought, a feeling you didn't name. And if you check your phone in bed, especially if it's work-related, you're essentially inviting the stress of the outside world into your most vulnerable space. Another hidden habit? Keeping your to-do list in your head. You may not write it down, but it's there, running quietly in the background. unfinished tasks, loose ends, conversations you need to have, decisions you haven't made. When the lights go out, these unfinished loops rise to the surface. Your brain, left without distraction, starts trying to solve problems. It's not trying to keep you awake on purpose. It just doesn't know the difference between now and later. To the mind, an unresolved task is an open tab, and open tabs drain energy. Some people cope with this by multitasking all day, jumping between tasks without closing any of them. Others overplan, trying to control everything to avoid uncertainty. Both approaches create cognitive fatigue and mental clutter. Neither helps your body prepare for rest. Then there's overcaffeination. You might think your last cup of coffee at 2 p.m. isn't affecting your sleep, but caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, which means that by 8 p.m., half of it is still in your system. It doesn't just keep you awake, it disrupts your body's ability to enter deep, restorative sleep stages. And when your sleep feels shallow, your next day feels harder. So you drink more coffee to compensate, and the cycle repeats. Let's not forget productivity guilt, that quiet voice that says you should have done more today. It shows up after work, during dinner, right before bed. That sense that you didn't earn rest, that you're behind, that sleeping now is somehow irresponsible. This guilt doesn't look like stress, but it is. It's internal pressure disguised as ambition, and it trains your body to associate rest with shame. Closely tied to this is the habit of emotional avoidance. You push down feelings throughout the day because you don't have time for them. You stay busy, distracted, efficient. But emotions don't disappear. They wait. And night, when things get quiet, is often the first time they knock on the door. Not because they want to ruin your sleep, but because they need to be heard. Avoiding emotional processing during the day creates emotional congestion at night. And finally, there's the habit of ignoring your body. You might be used to functioning in a state of mild tension, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, clenched jaw, and you've normalized it. You move fast, think fast, live fast. You don't pause to scan your body, to stretch, to breathe deeply. You don't give your nervous system cues that it's okay to slow down, so it doesn't. And when bedtime comes, your body doesn't know how to shift gears. All of these habits, the phone, the mental clutter, the caffeine, the guilt, the avoidance, the tension, they're not your fault. They're adaptive. They're ways you learn to survive in a world that moves too fast and demands too much. But surviving isn't the same as resting. And if you want to sleep, truly sleep, you have to start unlearning what your body mistook for safety. That doesn't mean cutting everything out overnight. You don't need to become a monk to reclaim your rest. It means becoming aware, choosing differently, gently, where you can, swapping the scroll for silence, putting your to-do list on paper instead of replaying it in your head, replacing guilt with self-compassion, practicing stillness in small, quiet ways, even if it's just one breath at a time. Because rest isn't something you earn, it's something you're wired for. But first, your body needs permission. It needs signals, and the habits you live by during the day are the messages you send. In the next part, we'll explore how to begin sending those messages through simple, science-backed techniques that teach your body how to relax, how to unwind, and how to remember that sleep is safe. We'll talk breath, rhythm, ritual, not as trends but as language, the language of letting go. Teaching your body to sleep, science-backed techniques for deep rest. Your body wants to sleep, it's built for it. Every system inside you, your brain, your heart, your immune system, even your emotional regulation, runs on the rhythm of rest. But when you've been stressed for a long time, that rhythm gets distorted. The body forgets how to slow down, and the longer it stays in that hyper-alert state, the more unfamiliar rest begins to feel. The good news is, just like your body learned to stay alert, it can also relearn how to relax. Not through force, but through gentle signals. Not through effort, but through rhythm. Let's start with breath. Breathing is the most direct line of communication between you and your nervous system. When you breathe shallow and fast, you tell your body to stay alert. When you breathe slow and deep, you tell it, you're safe now, you can let go. One of the most effective ways to access your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest and digestion, is through extended exhalation. Try this. Breathe in for 4 seconds, then breathe out for 6. Do that for 2 minutes. That's it. No app, no sound machine, just your breath guiding your body home. This works because your vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem to your gut, is activated by slow exhaling, and the vagus nerve is like a switch for your relaxation response. You don't have to understand every detail of the science to benefit from it. Just trust that every slow breath is a step back toward safety. Another tool, rhythm. Your body responds deeply to rhythm. It always has. That's why lullabies soothe babies, why walking calms racing thoughts, why steady movement can make you feel grounded again. Establishing a nighttime rhythm helps your body anticipate rest. It could be as simple as turning off all bright lights at the same time every evening, washing your face slowly, listening to the same song before bed, stretching for 5 quiet minutes. These little actions might seem unimportant, but they serve a bigger purpose. They teach your body what to expect, and when the body knows what's coming, it relaxes. It stops preparing for surprise. Predictability, when it's gentle and loving, is one of the most powerful tools for nervous system regulation. Now let's talk about your environment. You don't need a perfect sleep sanctuary to rest, but small changes can make a big difference. Cooler temperatures, dim lighting, and minimal noise help cue your body that it's time to power down. But it's not just about the room. It's about how you feel inside that room. If your bedroom has become a place of frustration and wakefulness, part of your work will be reconditioning it. That might mean moving screens out of the bed, only lying down when you're truly ready to rest, doing calming activities before entering the space, so your body associates it with winding down, not problem solving. There's also the practice of progressive muscle relaxation. It sounds fancy, but it's simple. You slowly tense and release different muscle groups in your body, starting from your toes and working your way up. This helps pull your attention out of your racing mind and into the body. It grounds you. It gives your system something to do that isn't thinking. Another technique worth mentioning is body scanning. It's just what it sounds like. You gently bring your awareness to different parts of your body, noticing sensation without judgment. You might say in your mind, I'm noticing my feet, my ankles, my calves, and so on. This practice can feel like nothing is happening, but it's actually quieting your stress response by teaching your brain to focus on what's real and physical instead of imagined or projected fears. There's a phrase often used in trauma healing: the body keeps the score. In sleep healing, we could say, the body sets the rhythm. And when you return to the rhythm of breath, of movement, of quiet daily rituals, you help your body remember how to feel safe. And when it feels safe, it lets go. Finally, don't underestimate the power of narrative. What you tell yourself before bed matters. If you lie down thinking, "Here we go again, another night of not sleeping," your brain absorbs that as a prediction. But if you shift the inner voice, even slightly, to something more compassionate, more curious, more patient, "I'm learning to rest. I'm creating space for sleep. It's okay if it takes time," your body responds differently. It softens. It trusts. None of these techniques are magic. They don't guarantee sleep in 10 minutes. But over time, they change the relationship between you and your body. They help you send new messages, not of control, but of care, not of urgency, but of understanding. And that shift, though quiet, is what opens the door to real deep rest. In the next part, we'll talk about building a long-term strategy. Not just one good night of sleep, but a sustainable way of living that supports your nervous system day after day. Because healing sleep isn't just about what happens at night. It's about how you move through the entire rhythm of your life. Long-term strategies for rebuilding sleep and lowering stress. Good sleep doesn't begin at bedtime. It begins in the morning, in the way you wake, in the way you breathe before your feet hit the floor. It begins in the way you carry your body through the day, the way you handle tension, the way you respond to noise, interruptions, expectations, and yourself. Because the truth is, your nervous system doesn't punch in at 10 p.m. and clock out at 7 a.m. It's working all the time, taking notes on how safe it feels in your world. And it uses that information to decide, can we rest tonight or not yet? That's why real sleep healing requires more than a nighttime routine. It requires a lifestyle that consistently tells your body, you're not in danger anymore. That message gets delivered not once, but over and over. In the food you eat, in the words you use with yourself, in the pace at which you move, and in the boundaries you protect. So let's start with mornings. One of the most effective long-term strategies for improving sleep is building a stable circadian rhythm. And one of the best ways to anchor your circadian clock is light, sunlight specifically. Within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, try to step outside. Even on a cloudy day, natural light signals your brain. It's daytime. Let's start the timer. That timer helps regulate when you'll naturally feel sleepy later. Skip that light, and your clock gets blurry, delayed, confused, and so does your sleep. Along with light, movement matters. You don't need a full workout, just movement. Stretch, walk, let your body know the day has begun. This helps metabolize stress hormones and clears out leftover cortisol from the night before. Physical activity during the day, especially earlier rather than later, can improve sleep quality without requiring extra effort at night. Nutrition also plays a role. Blood sugar swings are subtle stressors. When you skip meals or rely on caffeine and sugar to keep going, your nervous system pays attention. It doesn't feel safe when fuel is inconsistent. Try to eat balanced meals. Protein, fat, complex carbs. Your body isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for steadiness. Next is emotional regulation. Many people spend their days bracing, holding in feelings, pushing through exhaustion, pretending they're okay. But what's avoided in daylight often resurfaces in darkness. To build a sleep-supportive life, make space during the day for emotional release. This doesn't have to mean crying in the car or pouring your heart into a journal, though it could. It could also mean simply naming how you feel, saying, that interaction felt heavy, Or, I'm carrying a lot today. When your emotions are acknowledged, they don't need to ambush you at 2 a.m. And then, there's boundaries. One of the most exhausting sources of stress is being overextended. Saying yes when you meant no. Holding space for others when you're empty yourself. Answering emails at midnight. These things tell your nervous system that your time and your rest are not protected. Over time, this erodes your sense of agency. And that, more than anything, keeps the stress switch stuck in the on position. Building healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's biological self-respect. Every no you say from a grounded place is a signal to your body that it matters, that it has a right to space, silence, and recovery. Let's also talk about the stories you carry. If you've struggled with sleep for a while, you may have developed a subconscious identity around it. I'm a bad sleeper. I've never been able to sleep well. My mind just doesn't shut off. These beliefs, even when quietly held, shape your behavior. You go to bed expecting the fight. You anticipate the struggle, and the body follows that expectation. Long-term healing asks you to question that narrative. Not with force, but with kindness. What if your body isn't broken? What if it's wise? What if every sleepless night has been a call for your attention? Not punishment, but a message. Reframing your relationship with sleep starts with small affirmations. I'm learning to rest. My body is remembering how to sleep. I don't have to do this perfectly. These aren't magical mantras, they're neural cues, new grooves in the mind. And over time, they change the landscape from resistance to receptivity, and finally, community. Sleep healing doesn't have to be a solitary journey. So many people are suffering in silence, pretending they're okay, faking their energy, blaming themselves for something deeply human. When you talk about it, really talk about it, you break the shame, you normalize the struggle, and you make space for shared solutions, shared softness. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do isn't drink more tea or buy a better pillow. It's to look someone in the eye and say, "Me too." And hear them say it back. That's what we're doing here. In this series, we're making room for that shared truth, that stress and sleep are not enemies. They're two parts of a single conversation your body is trying to have with you. And the more you listen, the more clearly that conversation unfolds. In the final part of this episode, we'll come full circle, returning to where we started. The fear, the frustration, the nights that felt like battles. And from there, we'll close with something deeper than information. We'll close with permission. Because no matter how long you've struggled, no matter how many nights you've lost, you are still worthy of peace. And peace is still possible. The return to rest, permission to let go and sleep again. There's something sacred about the quiet just before sleep. That moment when the world fades and your body begins to surrender, if only it remembers how. For many people, that moment has become a battlefield. Not because they don't want to rest, but because something inside them has forgotten that rest is safe. And so they lie there, night after night, bracing for the fight. Not a fight with noise or light or even their mattress, but a fight with themselves. With the parts of them that can't stop thinking. The parts that still carry fear. The parts that whisper, "You didn't do enough today." The parts that believe they don't deserve to relax until every task is complete, every person is okay, every doubt resolved. But here's the truth. Sleep is not something you earn. It is not a trophy for productivity. It is not a reward for perfection. It is not a luxury for the lucky few. It is a biological necessity. a human right, and most importantly, it is your birthright. You were born knowing how to sleep. You did it effortlessly. No routine, no melatonin, no guilt. Just breath, rhythm, and trust. Somewhere along the way, the world became too loud, too fast, too demanding, and your nervous system, doing exactly what it was built to do, tried to protect you. It stayed alert. It kept watch. It did its best to keep you alive in a life that often asked you to perform more than it allowed you to rest. But that life isn't forever, and it doesn't have to be your life now. Right here, right now, you can begin again. Not with some grand gesture, but with a single breath. A quiet nod to your body. I hear you. I'm listening now. You can soften. You don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to change everything overnight. You don't even have to sleep well tonight. You just have to remember that rest is not weakness. Stillness is not failure. Letting go is not quitting. In fact, it may be the bravest thing you do. Because letting go means choosing trust over control. It means allowing the world to spin without your hands on the wheel. It means telling your body, you don't have to carry everything all the time. This series has never been about hacks or productivity tips. It's been about healing, about remembering what your body already knows but maybe forgot. That it was never meant to live in a constant state of fight or flight. That it's okay to slow down, that it's okay to feel, that it's okay to rest, even when the world around you says otherwise. So if tonight you still find yourself awake, that's okay. You are not back at square one. You are not broken. You are simply human. And you are learning, with compassion, with patience, with presence, how to return to rest. Let this be your permission. Permission to stop fighting sleep. Permission to release the shame. Permission to take up space in your own body again. Permission to be soft. Permission to be still. Permission to heal. Because you don't need to earn rest. You just need to receive it. And the more you do, night by night, breath by breath, the more your body will begin to believe, this is safe. I can sleep now. If this episode spoke to something inside you, if you've seen yourself in these late nights, in these loops, in these long, quiet battles, I just want to say, thank you for listening. You made space for this conversation, for your story, for your healing. And if you're ready to keep going, I'd love to walk this journey with you. This is just the beginning of our Stress and Sleep series. In the next episodes, we'll go even deeper into nighttime anxiety, sleep recovery rituals, how food, breath, and even your mornings shape your sleep, and how to build a life where rest isn't something you chase, but something that naturally returns. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon if you're on YouTube, or follow the show if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if someone you love is struggling with stress and sleep, send this their way. You never know. Your share could be the one thing that helps them feel less alone tonight. Lastly, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment or message. What part of this episode resonated with you the most? What does your night look like? What are you ready to let go of? Your story matters. Your rest matters. And you're not in this alone anymore. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you or sleep with you in the next episode. Until then, breathe easy.